Have you ever felt like someone else's words or actions were pulling your strings, steering your emotions, or even dictating your choices? It's a frustrating and all too common experience. But what if there was a way to take back control, not by changing others, but by changing how you respond? The ancient Stoics had a powerful insight. You have power over your mind, not outside events. These words from Marcus Aurelius remind us that while we can't always control what happens around us, we can control how we interpret and react to it. This is the foundation of using Stoic principles to avoid manipulation. In this video, we'll explore how emotional detachment, self-awareness, and focusing on what's within your control can help you break free from external influences and reclaim your inner peace. Whether you felt overwhelmed by a manipulative coworker, a toxic relationship, or even societal pressures, the tools we'll discuss today can empower you to stand firm, grounded in your own values and strength. Let's dive in. Manipulation thrives on exploiting our emotions and perceptions. It's a tool that others use to bend our thoughts, feelings, and actions to their will, often without us even realizing it. But Stoicism offers a powerful lens to understand and resist this kind of control. At its core, Stoicism teaches that our reactions, not the events or people around us, determine our well-being. In other words, while we can't control what others say or do, we always have the power to choose how we respond. Take Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers. He famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This idea is especially relevant when it comes to manipulation. Manipulators rely on triggering our emotions, fear, guilt, insecurity, to influence our behavior. But Stoicism reminds us that these emotions are not inevitable. They're the result of our judgments about what's happening, and we can choose to reframe those judgments. By focusing on what we can control, our own thoughts and actions, we can strip manipulation of its power. Let's bring this to life with a modern example. Imagine you're at work and a colleague consistently tries to shift blame onto you for their mistakes. They might use subtle tactics like making passive-aggressive comments or spreading rumors to make you feel insecure or guilty. A Stoic approach would involve recognizing that their behavior is outside your control. What you can control is how you respond. Instead of letting their words dictate your emotional state, you could choose to focus on your own integrity and actions. By refusing to react emotionally, you take away their ability to manipulate you. This isn't about ignoring the situation or pretending it doesn't matter. It's about reclaiming your power. When you stop giving others the ability to control your emotions, you become less vulnerable to their tactics. So, here's a question to reflect on. How often do you let others dictate your emotional state? The answer might reveal just how much power you're handing over and how much you could take back by embracing a Stoic mindset. What if you could remain calm even when others try to provoke you? Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, completely unfazed by the chaos around you. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario, it's the power of emotional detachment, a core Stoic principle that can shield you from manipulation. At its heart, emotional detachment isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about creating a space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. The Stoics believed that our emotions are often hijacked by external events, someone's harsh words, a manipulative comment, or even a passive-aggressive gesture. But here's the key: while we can't always control what happens around us, we can control how we react. This is where detachment comes in. By stepping back from the heat of the moment, we give ourselves the clarity to respond rationally rather than impulsively. As Seneca once said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Think about that for a moment. How often do we amplify our pain by imagining worst-case scenarios or dwelling on what someone might have meant? Emotional detachment helps us break free from this cycle. It allows us to see things as they are, not as our emotions distort them to be. Let's bring this to life with an example. Picture a family gathering where a relative constantly tries to push your buttons, making snide remarks or guilt-tripping you into doing what they want. Without detachment, it's easy to get caught up in the drama, reacting with anger or frustration. But with detachment, you can pause, observe their behavior without taking it personally, and choose a response that aligns with your values rather than their agenda. So, here's a question to reflect on. When was the last time you let someone else's emotions control yours? It's a powerful reminder that emotional detachment isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a practical tool for navigating relationships and protecting your peace of mind. By mastering this skill, you take back control, ensuring that your reactions are deliberate, not dictated by others. Self-awareness is your shield against manipulation. It's the foundation of recognizing when someone is trying to influence you in ways that don't align with your values or goals. Stoicism teaches us that the first step to protecting ourselves is understanding ourselves deeply. This means taking the time to reflect on our emotions, our reactions, and the patterns in our behavior. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often wrote about the importance of self-reflection, urging himself to examine his thoughts and actions daily. He understood that knowing oneself isn't just about self-improvement, it's about self-defense. When you're aware of your vulnerabilities, you're less likely to be blindsided by someone trying to exploit them. Think about it this way: if you don't know what triggers your anger, insecurity, or guilt, someone else might, and they could use that knowledge to manipulate you. For example, imagine you're in a relationship where your partner knows exactly how to push your buttons during an argument. They might use your fear of abandonment or your need for approval to control the conversation or sway your decisions. But if you've taken the time to reflect on these triggers, why they exist, and how they affect you, you're better equipped to pause and respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Stoicism encourages us to ask tough questions of ourselves. What are the emotions that tend to cloud your judgment? What situations make you feel defensive or overly agreeable? Once you identify these patterns, you can start to build strategies to guard against them. For instance, if you know you're prone to feeling guilty when someone criticizes you, you can remind yourself in the moment that guilt doesn't always mean you're in the wrong. It might just be a trigger being activated. This kind of self-awareness gives you the clarity to see manipulation for what it is and respond with intention rather than emotion. So, let's turn this inward. What are your emotional triggers? How do they show up in your relationships, your work, or your daily interactions? And more importantly, how can you strengthen your awareness of them so you're not caught off guard? By cultivating this kind of introspection, you're not just protecting yourself from manipulation, you're building a deeper sense of control over your own life. Have you ever found yourself frustrated because someone didn't respond the way you wanted them to? Or maybe you've spent hours worrying about a situation that was completely out of your hands. This is something we all do, pouring energy into things we can't control, only to feel drained and powerless in the end. But what if I told you there's a way to reclaim that energy and use it to build resilience against manipulation? That's where the Stoic dichotomy of control comes in. The Stoics had a simple yet profound idea: some things are within our power and others are not. As Epictetus put it, some things are within our power while others are not. What's within our power? Our thoughts, our actions, our choices. What's not? The actions of others, the past, the future, and even many of the circumstances we find ourselves in. This distinction is crucial because it shifts our focus away from what we can't change and toward what we can. And when we do that, we take back control of our lives. Let's say you're scrolling through social media and you see someone posting about their perfect life, perfect job, perfect relationships, perfect everything. It's easy to feel inadequate or even manipulated into comparing yourself to them. But here's the question: can you control what they post? No. Can you control how you react to it? Absolutely. Instead of letting their posts dictate your emotions, you can choose to focus on your own journey, your own growth, and your own values. That's where your real power lies. By focusing on what's within your control, your mindset, your decisions, your effort, you create a shield against manipulation. When someone tries to pressure you or sway your emotions, you can step back and ask yourself, is this within my control? If it's not, you can let it go. If it is, you can act with intention and clarity. This isn't about ignoring the world around you. It's about choosing where to direct your energy. So here's a challenge for you. What's one thing you can focus on today that's entirely within your control? Maybe it's how you respond to a difficult conversation, or how you prioritize your time, or even how you treat yourself. Whatever it is, take a moment to reflect on it, because when you focus on what you can control, you not only protect yourself from manipulation, you also start to live with greater purpose and peace. How often do you find yourself reacting to a situation without really thinking it through? It's easy to get swept up in the moment, especially when someone is trying to influence us, whether it's a persuasive sales pitch, a heated argument, or even a well-crafted social media post. But here's where Stoic wisdom steps in, the practice of rational judgment. This is about taking a step back, examining your initial reactions, and asking yourself, is this really true? Or am I being led by emotions or external pressures? The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, emphasized the importance of questioning our perceptions. He famously wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." This mindset is a powerful tool against manipulation. When we pause to apply reason, we can see through emotional appeals or false narratives that might otherwise sway us. For example, imagine someone trying to sell you something with a sense of urgency. This is a once-in-a-lifetime deal. Instead of reacting impulsively, you could pause and ask, is this really as urgent as they're making it seem? What's the actual value here? That moment of rational judgment gives you the clarity to make a decision based on facts, not pressure. Training yourself to think before reacting takes practice, but it's a skill that pays off. Start by noticing when you feel a strong emotional response, whether it's anger, excitement, or fear, and ask yourself, what's really driving this feeling? Is it justified, or am I being influenced? Over time, this habit of pausing and reflecting becomes second nature, helping you navigate situations with greater confidence and control. Resilience is the antidote to manipulation. Think about it. When you're unshakable in your principles and values, no one can easily sway you or pull you away from what truly matters. Stoicism teaches us that building inner resilience isn't just about weathering storms. It's about transforming those storms into opportunities to grow stronger. As Seneca once said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. It's through facing challenges, enduring discomfort, and staying grounded in our core beliefs that we develop the kind of resolve that makes manipulation nearly impossible. Let's take a moment to break this down. Resilience isn't about avoiding hardship, it's about leaning into it, knowing that every challenge you face is a chance to reinforce your mental and emotional strength. Imagine standing in a room full of people pressuring you to do something that goes against your values. Maybe it's a social setting where everyone is encouraging you to act in a way that feels wrong to you. Stoicism reminds us that true strength comes from standing firm, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about recognizing that the discomfort of staying true to yourself is far less damaging than the regret of betraying your principles. Now consider this: what challenges have made you stronger? Maybe it was a tough conversation you had to have, a time when you said no despite the pressure, or a moment when you chose to walk away from a situation that didn't align with who you are. Those moments weren't easy, but they likely shaped you in ways you're still discovering. Stoicism invites us to reflect on those experiences and use them as fuel for the future. How can that strength you've already built serve you now? How can it help you navigate situations where someone might try to manipulate or pressure you? The key is to remember that resilience isn't something you're born with, it's something you cultivate. By embracing discomfort, staying rooted in your values, and learning from every challenge, you're not just avoiding manipulation, you're building a version of yourself that's unbreakable. And that's a power no one can take away from you. What if discomfort could make you invincible to manipulation? It might sound counterintuitive, but the Stoics believed that embracing hardship voluntarily could be one of the most powerful tools for building resilience. This practice, known as voluntary discomfort, isn't about seeking pain for its own sake. It's about training yourself to face life's challenges with calm and clarity, so external pressures lose their grip on you. Think of it as a mental workout. Just as lifting weights strengthens your muscles, willingly stepping into discomfort strengthens your ability to remain unshaken when others try to sway you. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it this way: difficulties show what men are. He encouraged his students to deliberately expose themselves to discomfort, whether it was fasting, enduring cold, or living with less, so they could learn to detach from the fear of losing comfort or status. Why? Because when you're no longer afraid of losing what others value so highly, money, approval, or luxury, you become far harder to manipulate. If someone can't threaten your sense of security or dangle rewards you desperately crave, their power over you diminishes. Let's bring this into the modern world. Consider minimalism, the practice of living with fewer possessions. At its core, minimalism is a form of voluntary discomfort. By choosing to live with less, you break free from the constant pressure to buy, consume, and keep up with trends. Advertisers and marketers thrive on creating a sense of lack in us, telling us we need the latest gadget, the trendiest clothes, or the fanciest car to be happy. But when you willingly let go of those desires, you take away their leverage. You're no longer chasing external validation, and that makes you immune to their tactics. So, what small discomfort can you embrace today to build your resilience? Maybe it's turning off notifications for a few hours to resist the pull of social media. Or perhaps it's choosing a simpler meal instead of indulging in excess. These small acts of discipline might seem insignificant, but over time they add up. Each one is a step toward greater inner strength, a reminder that you don't need external comforts to feel secure or fulfilled. And when you reach that point, manipulation loses its power. You become unshakable not because you've gained control over the world, but because you've gained control over yourself. We're constantly bombarded by influences that nudge us in one direction or another, often without us even realizing it. Think about the last time you made a decision. Was it truly yours, or were you subtly guided by something outside of yourself? This is where Stoicism steps in, offering a powerful tool to cut through the noise. Stoic philosophy teaches us to pause and ask, what's driving this choice? Is it coming from within, or is it being imposed on me from the outside? One of the key principles here is learning to distinguish between what we genuinely need and what we've been conditioned to desire. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, our minds absorb the influences around us, shaping our desires and actions. If we're not careful, we can end up chasing things that don't align with our true values, things we've been told we should want, rather than what we actually do. Take advertising, for example. Every day, we're surrounded by messages designed to make us feel incomplete unless we buy a certain product, adopt a specific lifestyle, or conform to a particular image. These tactics are crafted to tap into our insecurities and create artificial desires. But Stoicism invites us to step back and ask, do I really need this, or is this just a clever manipulation? By questioning the source of our impulses, we can start to reclaim control over our choices. So, here's a question to reflect on. What external influences are quietly shaping your decisions without your awareness? It could be the opinions of others, societal expectations, or even the subtle pressure of social media. The first step to breaking free is simply noticing. And once you do, you can begin to align your actions with what truly matters to you, rather than what's being pushed on you from the outside. Being present is your defense against manipulation. When you're fully grounded in the here and now, you're less likely to be pulled into someone else's agenda or swayed by emotional tactics. This is where Stoic mindfulness comes into play, a practice that teaches us to focus on what's directly in front of us, rather than getting lost in past regrets or future anxieties. As Epictetus once said, we should always be asking ourselves, is this something that is or is not in my control? By anchoring ourselves in the present moment, we gain clarity and the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Think about a heated argument, for instance. When emotions run high, it's easy to get swept up in the chaos, saying or doing things you might later regret. But if you pause, take a deep breath, and bring your attention back to the present, you can see the situation for what it truly is, not as a personal attack, but as a moment where someone else's emotions are driving the conversation. This awareness gives you the power to choose how you engage, or even whether you engage at all. It's not about suppressing your feelings, it's about observing them without letting them control you. So, how can you practice being more present in your daily life? Start small. Try setting aside a few minutes each day to simply observe your surroundings, notice the sounds, the textures, the colors. Or when you're in a conversation, really listen to the other person without planning your response in your head. These moments of presence might feel fleeting at first, but over time they'll become second nature, helping you stay grounded and resistant to manipulation. The more you practice this, the more you'll realize that the present moment is where your true power lies. A clear sense of right and wrong isn't just an abstract ideal, it's your shield against manipulation. Stoicism teaches us that living in alignment with virtue and moral principles isn't optional. It's essential for a life of integrity and freedom. When you know what you stand for, no one can easily sway you into actions or decisions that go against your core values. Think of it this way: your moral compass is like an internal anchor, keeping you steady even when the world around you feels chaotic or uncertain. Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult." This speaks directly to the courage it takes to uphold your principles, especially when faced with pressure or temptation. Imagine you're in a situation at work where cutting corners or bending the truth might seem like the easier path. A strong moral compass doesn't just help you recognize the unethical choice, it gives you the resolve to stand firm, even when it feels uncomfortable or risky. That's the power of knowing your values and sticking to them. But here's the thing: building this clarity doesn't happen overnight. It requires reflection, practice, and sometimes even discomfort. Ask yourself, what values guide your decisions? Are they clear to you, or do they feel a little fuzzy? Strengthening your moral compass starts with identifying those principles that matter most, whether it's honesty, fairness, or compassion, and then consistently aligning your actions with them. Over time, this alignment becomes second nature, and manipulation loses its grip because you've built an unshakable foundation of virtue. So take a moment to reflect. What steps can you take today to reinforce your moral compass? How can you ensure that your actions consistently reflect your deepest values? The more you practice this alignment, the more resilient you become to outside pressures, and the more authentically you can live. Have you ever found yourself altering your decisions or actions just to gain someone else's approval? It's a common experience, but here's the thing: seeking approval often leaves us vulnerable to manipulation. When we place too much weight on what others think, we give away our power, allowing their opinions to steer our choices. This is where Stoicism offers a powerful antidote. The philosophy teaches us to value our own judgment above the opinions of others, reminding us that external validation is fleeting and often unreliable. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most famous Stoics, wrote extensively about this in his Meditations. He emphasized the importance of self-reliance, urging us to focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and values, rather than being swayed by external praise or criticism. By detaching from the need for approval, we become less susceptible to manipulation. When someone tries to influence us through flattery, guilt, or pressure, we can recognize their tactics and respond from a place of inner strength, not insecurity. Think about social media, for instance. How often do we post something not because it truly reflects who we are, but because we're chasing likes, comments, or shares? That constant need for validation can lead us to compromise our authenticity, making us more susceptible to external pressures. Stoicism invites us to step back and ask ourselves, why am I doing this? Is it because I genuinely believe in it, or am I simply seeking approval? So, here's a question for you to reflect on. How much of your behavior is driven by the desire for approval? Recognizing this tendency is the first step toward breaking free from it. By focusing on your own principles and values, you can build a stronger sense of self that isn't easily swayed by the opinions of others. This doesn't mean ignoring feedback or isolating yourself. It means making choices that align with your inner compass, not someone else's expectations. When you stop seeking approval, you reclaim your autonomy. You become the author of your own story rather than a character in someone else's. And in doing so, you create a life that's not only more authentic but also far less vulnerable to manipulation. What if appreciating what you have could shield you from manipulation? It's a powerful thought, isn't it? The Stoics believed that gratitude isn't just a feel-good practice, it's a tool for resilience. When we focus on what we already have, we reduce our craving for external validation, and that's where manipulation often takes root. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it beautifully. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. This mindset shifts our focus from what we lack to what we possess, creating a sense of contentment that's hard to shake. And when we're content, we're far less likely to fall for manipulative tactics that prey on our insecurities or desires. Take something as simple as the pressure to keep up with trends. Whether it's the latest gadget, fashion, or lifestyle, the world constantly tells us we need more to be happy. But when we practice gratitude, we begin to see that what we already have is enough. We stop chasing external validation and start valuing our own sense of fulfillment. So here's a question to reflect on. What are you grateful for today that keeps you grounded? It might be something small, like a quiet moment in the morning, or something significant, like the support of loved ones. Whatever it is, recognizing it strengthens your inner stability, making you less susceptible to manipulation. Gratitude, in the Stoic sense, isn't just about feeling good. It's about building a fortress of contentment around your mind and heart. Boundaries are essential for protecting yourself from manipulation. Think of them as invisible lines that define what you will and won't accept in your relationships, your work, and even your inner dialogue. Stoicism teaches us that setting clear boundaries isn't just about keeping others in check, it's about honoring your own values and maintaining your autonomy. When you know where your limits are, you're less likely to be swayed by someone else's agenda. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, emphasized the importance of self-respect. He believed that if you don't stand firm in your principles, you risk becoming a puppet to others' whims. Imagine someone constantly asking for favors that drain your time and energy. Without boundaries, you might say yes out of guilt or fear of conflict, only to feel resentful later. But when you clearly define what you're willing to give and what you're not, you reclaim control over your life. Let's take a practical example. Suppose a colleague repeatedly asks you to take on extra work, even though it's outside your job description. Stoicism would encourage you to assess the situation calmly. Is this request reasonable? Does it align with your values and priorities? If the answer is no, saying no isn't selfish, it's an act of self-respect. By setting that boundary, you're not only protecting your time and energy, but also signaling to others that your limits matter. This doesn't mean being rigid or unkind. Stoicism isn't about building walls, it's about creating healthy, respectful spaces where you can thrive. The key is to communicate your boundaries clearly and consistently without apology. When you do this, you're less likely to feel overwhelmed or manipulated, and others will learn how to interact with you in a way that respects your autonomy. So, where do you need to set stronger boundaries in your life? Maybe it's with a friend who always expects you to drop everything for them, or a family member who undermines your decisions. Reflect on the areas where you feel drained or controlled, and consider how defining your limits could bring you a greater sense of peace and empowerment. After all, boundaries aren't just about keeping others out, they're about letting yourself live authentically, free from manipulation. What if patience could make you immune to manipulation? It's a powerful question, and the Stoics believed that cultivating patience and long-term thinking is one of the most effective ways to shield yourself from being swayed by others. When we act impulsively, we're more likely to fall into traps, whether it's a sales pitch that pressures us to buy now or a conversation designed to provoke an emotional reaction. But when we step back, take a breath, and focus on the bigger picture, we regain control. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." What he meant is that life isn't always smooth or predictable. It requires effort, resilience, and the ability to stay grounded even when things feel chaotic. This is where patience comes in. It's about resisting the urge to react immediately, especially when someone tries to rush you or create a sense of urgency. Think about those moments when you felt pressured to make a quick financial decision. Maybe it was a limited-time offer or a high-pressure sales tactic. In those situations, patience allows you to pause, evaluate your options, and make a choice that aligns with your values and long-term goals, rather than succumbing to someone else's agenda. To practice this, start by identifying situations where you feel rushed or pressured. It could be in a negotiation, a heated discussion, or even scrolling through social media ads. When that sense of urgency arises, take a moment to ask yourself, what's really at stake here? Is this decision worth making in haste? By slowing down, you create space to see through short-term manipulative tactics and focus on what truly matters. How can you cultivate patience in your own life, especially in moments when you feel the pull to act impulsively? Trying to control everything often leaves us vulnerable to manipulation. It's a paradox, isn't it? The more we tighten our grip, the more we feel life slipping through our fingers. Stoicism offers a different approach, one that doesn't rely on perfection or absolute control, but instead teaches us to embrace imperfection and focus on what's truly within our power. This shift in mindset isn't just liberating, it's a powerful shield against manipulation. Think about it. When we're obsessed with controlling every detail, whether it's how others perceive us, the outcomes of situations, or even the behavior of those around us, we open ourselves up to being swayed by external forces. Manipulators thrive on this. They exploit our desire for control, using it to pull our strings or push us into actions that serve their agenda. But Stoicism reminds us that not everything is ours to command. As Epictetus famously said, some things are in our control and others are not. The key is to discern the difference. Take a chaotic work environment, for example. You might feel pressured to micromanage every task, fix every problem, or even control how your colleagues behave. But the truth is, much of that is beyond your influence. What you can control is your own response, your attitude, your effort, and your ability to adapt. By focusing on these internal factors, you not only reduce stress but also strip manipulators of their leverage. They can't exploit what you've already let go of. So, what can you let go of today to regain your peace of mind? It might be the need to have the last word in an argument, the obsession with a perfect outcome, or even the pressure to please everyone around you. When you release these burdens, you reclaim your autonomy. You stop giving others the power to dictate your emotions or actions, and that's where true freedom begins. By embracing imperfection and relinquishing the illusion of control, you not only align yourself with Stoic principles but also fortify yourself against manipulation. It's not about giving up, it's about focusing your energy where it truly matters, on what you can change rather than what you can't. And in doing so, you create a life that's not only more resilient but also more authentically your own. How can you care for others without being controlled by them? It's a question that strikes at the heart of many relationships, especially when we feel pulled in too many directions. Stoicism offers a powerful answer. Empathy doesn't mean losing yourself. In fact, the Stoics believed that true compassion comes from a place of strength, not sacrifice. Seneca once said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." But kindness doesn't mean giving away your peace, your time, or your values. It's about finding that balance, caring deeply while staying grounded in your own principles. Think about it this way. Imagine a friend comes to you in distress, asking for your help. You want to be there for them, of course, but you also have your own responsibilities and limits. Stoicism teaches us that we can offer support without abandoning our own needs. For instance, you might listen to their concerns and offer advice, but you don't have to drop everything to solve their problems for them. By setting clear boundaries, you're not only protecting your own well-being, you're also showing them how to respect your time and energy. This isn't selfish, it's necessary. The key is to recognize that empathy and self-respect aren't opposites, they're two sides of the same coin. When you practice compassion from a place of inner strength, you're less likely to be swayed by guilt, pressure, or manipulation. You can give freely because you're not giving from a place of depletion. So, how can you practice empathy without losing yourself? Start by asking what you truly have to offer and what aligns with your values. Then act from that place of clarity and confidence. That's where true kindness begins. A clear sense of purpose is your anchor against manipulation. Without it, we drift aimlessly, vulnerable to the currents of external pressures and distractions. Stoicism teaches us that aligning our actions with our deeper goals and values is essential for living a life of integrity and resilience. When we know what truly matters to us, the noise of manipulation loses its power. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote extensively about the importance of living with intention. He urged us to focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and choices, while letting go of what is not. This is how we stay grounded, even when others try to sway us. Think about it. When you're clear on your purpose, distractions become easier to spot. Societal pressures, peer influence, or even subtle manipulation tactics can't easily pull you off course because you have a guiding principle to return to. For example, imagine someone pursuing a meaningful career in the arts despite societal pressures to choose a more practical path. Their purpose, to create, inspire, and express, becomes their compass. Even when faced with criticism or doubt, their commitment to that purpose helps them stay true to their path. But here's the challenge: staying focused on your purpose isn't always easy. Life is full of temptations and distractions, and manipulative influences often disguise themselves as opportunities or shortcuts. That's why Stoicism emphasizes regular reflection and self-awareness. Taking time to reconnect with your values and goals ensures that you don't lose sight of what truly matters. So ask yourself, what is your purpose? What are the values that guide your decisions? And how can you cultivate the discipline to stay true to them, even when the world tries to pull you in another direction? By anchoring yourself in your purpose, you not only resist manipulation, but also build a life of authenticity and meaning. It's not about ignoring external influences entirely. It's about being so rooted in your inner compass that those influences can't easily derail you. This is the Stoic way, living with intention, clarity, and unwavering focus on what truly matters. Saying no is one of the most powerful tools we have to guard ourselves against manipulation. Think about it. How often do we say yes to things we don't truly want to do, simply because we feel pressured or obligated? Stoicism teaches us that true freedom lies in mastering our own choices, and that includes the ability to set clear, firm boundaries. As Epictetus wisely said, no man is free who is not master of himself. If we can't say no, we're handing over control of our lives to others, leaving ourselves vulnerable to their demands and expectations. Setting limits isn't about being selfish or rigid. It's about respecting our own time, energy, and well-being. When we say no to unnecessary obligations, we're saying yes to what truly matters. For example, imagine a coworker asking you to take on an extra project when you're already overwhelmed. By declining, you're not only protecting your mental health, but also ensuring you can give your best to the commitments you've already made. This isn't just practical, it's Stoic. It's about aligning your actions with your values and refusing to let external pressures dictate your life. So, where do you need to say no more often in your life? Is it at work, where you're constantly overextending yourself? Or maybe in your personal relationships, where others expect you to always be available? Reflect on this. Saying no isn't about shutting people out. It's about creating space for what truly aligns with your purpose. And when you do it with clarity and conviction, you'll find that people respect your boundaries far more than you might expect. This is the Stoic path to reclaiming your autonomy and living a life free from manipulation. Think about this for a moment. Who in your life helps you stay grounded and true to yourself? Stoicism teaches us that the people we surround ourselves with play a crucial role in shaping our character and helping us navigate life's challenges. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often emphasized the importance of wise friendships. He believed that the company we keep can either lift us up or pull us down, depending on whether those individuals align with our values and encourage our growth. In a world full of manipulative influences, having a supportive community acts as a shield, helping us stay focused on what truly matters. But what does this look like in practice? It's about intentionally seeking out people who inspire you, challenge you to grow, and remind you of your principles when you're tempted to stray. These could be mentors, friends, or even like-minded peers who share your commitment to living with integrity. For example, imagine you're faced with a situation where someone is trying to pressure you into making a decision that goes against your values. A supportive friend or mentor might remind you of your priorities, helping you resist the pull of manipulation and stay aligned with your true self. So take a moment to reflect who in your life helps you stay true to your principles. Are there people who consistently encourage you to be the best version of yourself? If not, how can you begin to cultivate those relationships? Building a supportive community isn't just about finding people who agree with you. It's about surrounding yourself with those who genuinely care about your growth and well-being. In doing so, you create a network of strength that helps you navigate life's complexities with clarity and resilience. Daily reflection is your tool for staying aware and resilient. It's like a quiet conversation with yourself, a moment to pause and take stock of what happened, how you responded, and what you can do better. The Stoics understood the power of this practice deeply. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most famous Stoic philosophers, began each day with a simple yet profound thought. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive. This wasn't just about gratitude, it was about grounding himself in the present, preparing his mind to face whatever challenges the day might bring. One of the most effective ways to practice daily reflection is through journaling. By writing down your thoughts, you create a space to process your emotions and actions without judgment. It's a chance to ask yourself, did I act in alignment with my values today? Were there moments when I felt pressured or swayed by someone else's agenda? For example, let's say you had a conversation where you felt subtly manipulated. Maybe someone used guilt or flattery to steer your decision. Reflecting on that interaction later can help you spot the tactics used and strengthen your awareness for the next time. Meditation is another powerful tool for reflection. Even just a few minutes of stillness can help you step back from the noise of the day and see things more clearly. It's like pressing the reset button on your mind, allowing you to approach situations with a calm, centered perspective. Over time, these small moments of reflection build resilience, making it harder for others to sway you in ways that don't align with your true self. So, as you end your day, take a moment to ask yourself, what can I learn from today's experiences to protect myself tomorrow? This isn't about dwelling on mistakes or regrets, it's about growing stronger, more aware, and more intentional with each passing day. Because when you reflect, you reclaim your power. What if embracing uncertainty could make you immune to manipulation? It's a powerful question, and Stoicism offers a profound answer. At its core, Stoicism teaches us to accept change and unpredictability as natural parts of life. Instead of resisting what we can't control, we learn to flow with it. This mindset doesn't just reduce fear, it makes us far less vulnerable to manipulation. Think about it, when you're no longer afraid of the unknown, you're less likely to be swayed by someone trying to exploit your anxieties or insecurities. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it simply, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. He emphasized the importance of adapting to circumstances rather than fighting against them. For example, imagine facing a sudden career shift. Maybe you lose your job or have to pivot to a completely new industry. If you approach this change with resistance and fear, you might feel overwhelmed, desperate, and even susceptible to bad advice or manipulation. But if you adopt a Stoic mindset, you'd see this as an opportunity to grow, adapt, and find new paths. You'd focus on what you can control, your effort, your attitude, and your next steps, rather than fixating on what you can't. So, how can you start practicing this in your daily life? Begin by noticing the small uncertainties, things like a last-minute change in plans or a project that doesn't go as expected. Instead of reacting with frustration, pause and ask yourself, how can I adapt to this? What's within my control? Over time, this practice builds resilience and clarity, making you less likely to fall into the traps of manipulation. Uncertainty stops being a threat and becomes a tool for growth. And as you grow stronger in this mindset, you'll find that external pressures have far less power over you. So, what have we learned about using Stoic principles to avoid manipulation and live authentically? At the heart of Stoicism are three powerful ideas: emotional detachment, self-awareness, and focusing on what's within our control. These tools aren't just philosophical concepts, they're practical strategies for navigating a world that often tries to pull us in directions we don't want to go. Emotional detachment helps us step back from the chaos, allowing us to see situations clearly rather than being swept away by impulsive reactions. Self-awareness grounds us in understanding our own values and boundaries, so we're less likely to be swayed by external pressures. And by focusing on what's within our control, we reclaim our power, refusing to let others dictate our emotions or decisions. Think about it. When someone tries to manipulate us, they're often playing on our fears, desires, or insecurities. But Stoicism teaches us to recognize these tactics and respond with calm clarity. Instead of reacting out of anger or fear, we can pause, reflect, and choose a response that aligns with our true selves. This isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about becoming free. Free from the influence of those who don't have our best interests at heart, and free to live a life that's genuinely ours. As Seneca once said, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. This quote reminds us that true wealth lies in contentment and self-sufficiency. When we stop seeking validation or approval from others, we break the chains of manipulation and step into a life of authenticity. It's a powerful reminder that we already have everything we need within us, we just have to tap into it. Now, I'd love to hear from you. How do you see these Stoic principles playing out in your own life? Have you noticed moments where emotional detachment or self-awareness helped you avoid being manipulated? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to continue this conversation with you. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more insights on how Stoicism can help you live a more intentional and empowered life. Until next time, remember, the power to live authentically is always within your control.